What's going on, guys, and welcome back. Episode 2 of our How to Beat series. If you have not checked out our How to Beat Drytron series or video yet, go ahead and check that out. We had a pretty decent discussion in the comments there. You guys seem to have liked the video and thought that it was helpful overall, so that's always really good, and we like to hear that. We'll also be covering Zodiac Eldritch, Invoke Dogmatica, our tier list for the new year, and sprinkling in our Cyber Dragon content as always, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss anything. We do have some big news to give out to you guys as well at some point early January. Today, how to beat Virtual World. So anyone who is new to this series, we talk about what the deck does, how it kind of functions, then the hand traps that you can use and what to hit with them, finally followed by some side deck or counters to them, if you will. So what does the deck do? Essentially, the monster, if it's in your hand, you target a virtual world card you control. So monster, spell, or trap. Then you send one virtual card of a different type, monster, spell, or trap, from your deck to the graveyard, and then they each have little different effects. Like Lily, if you say target whatever, then if you do special summon this card, and you can send a virtual world card of the third type from your deck to the graveyard, whereas Lulu, probably the best one, can add the third type to your hand. They also have Lao Lao, which if you do special summon this card, then special summon one virtual world monster from your graveyard. So you have essentially a Foolish Burial, an add to your hand, and a special summon from the graveyard. Additionally, they have their GG, which during the end phase of this turn, you can add a virtual world monster from your graveyard to your hand, which essentially sets up your follow-up play. And the final monster that they have as of right now is Nyan Yan, which if a level 3 monster is normal or special summoned to your field while this card is in your graveyard, you could special summon it as a tuner, but banish it when it leaves the field. Also, for the rest of this turn, these cards all have this stipulation: you can only special summon level/rank 3 or higher monsters. If this card is banished, you can target one of your other banished cards, shuffle it into the deck. You can only use each effect once per turn. So pretty straightforward on what they do. They have a couple spell cards that are pretty prevalent. The one being Kowloon, which you can place one virtual world gate card from your deck face up in your spell and trap zone, which you usually go for your virtual world gate Chuchi, which we'll get to here in a second. Then you can apply any of the following effects in sequence, which, I mean, you guys can see on the screen, but they're more or less, like especially turn 1, it's really irrelevant. If otherwise, the other virtual world gate, we'll try to slow down and actually talk straight for you guys here. Virtual world gate, King Long. Banish one virtual world card from your graveyard, target one face-up monster on the field, negate its effects until the end of this turn, even if this card leaves the field. You don't really use that too much, but the effect you really go for is you can banish this card from your graveyard to add a virtual world monster from your deck to your hand, then send one card from your hand to the graveyard. So essentially, especially if you like send Nyan Yan, then it doesn't matter because you're just going to resummon it again in the combo anyway, but it basically is another way to get to the Lulu into your hand. And the final virtual world card we're going to just touch on briefly here, Virtual World Gate Chuchi. This card is crazy because it makes your VFD dodge things like impermanence, like Droplet. Otherwise, you can just pop cards on the field. You can target a face-up card on the field, shuffle 2 of your banished virtual world cards with different names from each other into the deck, then destroy that card. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, target one virtual world monster, increase or decrease its level/rank by 3, which is pretty big. You can only use each effect once per turn. This is where, I guess we'll talk about that in a second once we get to our side deck cards. But so essentially making it where you activate your VFD to turn off their monster effects for the turn and their attacks, and they try to impermanence it. You can just Chuchi pop your VFD by shuffling your own cards back into your deck, and now the VFD resolves because they miss the target with their impermanence. So that's kind of why this card is really, really strong. What can you use your hand traps on? We're going to cover the same hand traps that we did in the Drytron video, and we're going to use them for pretty much all these videos. Frame Gear Gamma. Save it for the VFD. Like, there's no point in hitting anything in their combo. They're going to end on their board. Save it for the VFD, please, because even if they try to pop it, Gamma doesn't care. VFD is going to get negated. Otherwise, I mean, if you want to use it on something else, it would probably be like the Lulu or the Cloud Castle, but I do highly recommend saving your Gamma for VFD. Droll and Blackbird can be okay here. I mean, they run Potted Desires, they run Triple Tactics Talent, so keep that in mind. If you're going to hand trap them, they might just be able to draw 2 there or take a card out of your hand anyway. King Long adds to hand, Lulu adds to hand, like I said, Desires already. So especially if they open up with Desires, Droll is actually pretty good because, you know, Lulu and King Long aren't going to be able to add to their hand, but depending on where their hand is, it's going to really come down to that. What extenders do they have in their hand? What's their hand look like? Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion, you can hit the Nyan Yan, so it can't really summon. You can hit the Lao Lao, so it can't summon a card from the graveyard as well. You can hit the Cloud Castle, so it stops it from reviving another level 9, which could maybe stop them from making VFD. Skullmeister, you can use it on the King Long, the Chuchi, the Nyan Yan, so pretty good there overall, because especially like the level modulation of Chuchi is, well, one of their big play extenders. The Searching off King Long, one of their big play extenders, so being able to negate those with a Skullmeister, which is not once per turn by the way, can be very, very strong. Ash Blossom enjoys Spring. Well, I'd probably use it on the Lulu if anything. It's the best one to hit. Otherwise, hitting the King Long in the graveyard for the most part. But yeah, so probably about it for the Ash. Like, I guess if you think there's a better target, let me know. But I think Lulu or King Long are the 2 best targets to Ash. I mean, you really could, I guess, if they shotgun the Desires and use that right away, even hit the Desires at that point. Nibiru versus Virtual Worlds. So this one's kind of tricky because it really comes down to their hand and what can they do. Obviously, you can wait for them to make a VFD, and if they try to use its effect to turn off your Nibiru or possibly prevent it or anything like that, which I don't understand exactly why they would, because you just chain the Nibiru to it. But yeah, chain the Nibiru to it. Otherwise, if they try to end their turn, end the main phase, just Nibiru them. And depending on what their hand is, they could still potentially make another VFD and pass, but you're going to make them burn up a lot of resources. So Nibiru actually is pretty good in the matchup. But just keep in mind that even if you Nibiru them, they might still end on a VFD. Infinite Impermanence, like we mentioned, not very good because of Chuchi. So that's our hand traps. That's kind of what the deck does. Let's go ahead and talk about our side deck / counters. Ice Dragon's Prison is pretty good, guys. For the most part, they're all Psychic and Worms, at least the archetypes are, so you can really disrupt their play by getting 2 of them banished. Different Dimension Ground, again, another one that's strong because you just force them to banish their cards as opposed to being able to actually recycle them from the graveyard where they want them. Dimension Barrier, crazy, you know, call Synchro. They use their Synchros to go into the XZ's plays as well, so calling Synchro is really, really strong. Rivalry of the Warlords, well, like we already said, their main decks are Worm and Psychics, so by calling the, like, flipping a Rivalry on them, that's gonna hurt quite a bit. Otherwise, you know, they have Cloud Castle, they have their extra deck Toolbox, which is going to hurt. Goes and Match, also another strong one if you can play it, because their main decks are Earth and Wind. Alternatively, they a lot of time use the Vermilion Mech, the level 9 Synchro, to make their VFD, which is a fire. So, you know, Goes and Match can be really strong, and I mean, Goes and Match just makes it so they can't make a VFD anyway. They do have other cards, like if they could get into a Crocodragon or something like that to pop the Goes and Match, but without actually typing in and seeing all the attributes of the play line they would need to do, I don't know if they would even be able to do it actually. Torrential Tribute, really strong trap right now. Like, who would have thought Torrential Tribute's going to be good versus pretty much all these top decks that we're going to talk about, because if you open it going first, you can set it and it's good. If you open it and you're going second, well, you can set it and break their board. Forbidden Droplet, this one's kind of iffy. If you have a trap, like if you're playing a trap heavy deck, Forbidden Droplet is really, really strong right now, and I would absolutely play it, because you just send you chain, they use their VFD and you chain Droplet sending a trap. Now Chuchi can't respond and they can't pop their VFD, so, you know, kind of good. XYZ Encore, really good as well. Like, you draw your card and then it's still your priority before you go to standby phase. Just XYZ Encore the VFD and you return it back to the extra deck. and well, you don't have to deal with the VFD anymore, and they can't respond to it. So really strong card in XYZ Encore. Cosmic Cyclone, it can, like, if you're main decking it, this is a matchup where, again, do you side it out? I mean, that's tough because Chuchi and King Long both being the continuous cards, but like, say you open, I mean, I guess we already said it's a bad card for the matchup, but say Infinite Impermanence and Cosmic Cyclone, you can chain Imperm to the VFD, and they're going to use Chuchi to try and pop the VFD. You can Cosmic the Chuchi, so it doesn't stay on the field, it doesn't resolve, and then the Imperm does negate the VFD. So I mean, it can be used like that. I usually side it out in the matchup personally. It does have a couple little things. The other card we are going to mention, however, will be Artifact Lancia. Lancia is pretty good because, well, Chuchi needs to shuffle back banish cards in order to pop a card. If they can't banish them, they can't use it. They can't protect the VFD from being negated like that. So Lancia can be pretty good there. Additionally, just stopping like the King Long from banishing to even search a card in the first place is also really strong as well. But so, I mean, that's kind of, I guess, what we got for you guys for this video. Getting a little late and a little sidetracked, so I do apologize. This video did not quite go as smoothly as I had hoped, but I think for the most part we got a pretty good cover on what to do, what the deck does, how to stop it, how to beat for it, and some side deck cards. Let us know in the comment section down below anything that you feel we have missed or could improve upon. Until next time, guys, take care.